Welcome, everyone, to the Beauty and the Surgeon podcast. I'm Amy. I'm a nutritional therapy counselor, and I'm joined today, as always, by Dr. Jason Martin. He's a board-certified plastic and reconstructive surgeon. How you doing, Dr. Martin?
Doing really good. It's 2020, Amy.
Well, it is today.
Supposedly.
No, it's today. It's January 1st.
It's January 1st today.
It's today.
We had a rager last night. That was unbelievable. You and I partied. We flew to Vegas. We celebrated the new year. In 2020, I mean, like it's 2020, last time 1919. I mean, come on. It's 100 years.
It's a cool year. What are those memes that like, can you believe the year 2000 was 20 years ago and so was 1980? Because that's how I feel.
So this episode is one of my favorite episodes of the year. So it's our top 5. And we've done this before, of course, like all of our episodes where we compare things, you and I pick things. I always win. I definitely won last year, I believe. Is that what we decided?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, good. And this year you and I have independently picked our top 5 moments.
We have, and spoiler, Nils, our producer, has told me that we have not talked about what we chose. Like we did them.
We have no idea.
Yeah, we have no idea what each other picked, but there is one that was
because we're
the
professionals.
Same.
That we're professional podcasters. You can give us any topic and we can talk about it for at least 20 minutes.
Yes.
So we have no idea what each other picked. We could have picked the same one, right?
We did. We picked one of the same. So Nils combined our one that was the same to be the number one, since clearly if we both picked it, it must have been number one. So
yeah.
Up until then, though, it goes back and forth. So it starts with me.
Okay, real quick. So when you went through this year, and I listened to every episode. By the way, this year was an amazing year for our episodes. It was very educational, a lot of information. It was fun. I think we're getting our groove with the podcasting. And we really offered a lot in terms of what people wanted, learning about plastic surgery, health, fitness, goals, nutrition, everything in that genre.
Yeah, we did. We got to answer some questions. We also had one really awesome guest, which we should talk about. First of all, with our honorable mention, who was Steve Shaw. We had him on back in 2017, the first time, and talked to him again just a couple of episodes ago. So episode 64 was called Steve Shaw Returns.
He's a Beauty and the Surgeon OG.
He is. Yep. Steve has been just an amazing motivational person to know, and no exception. Like what he's done this year has been different and awesome. So definitely check that episode out because it was really good. But all of our episodes can be found on YouTube as well, so including this one. So if you want to watch all these clips, because they are all video clips that we'll be playing, you can find that at Jason Martin MD on YouTube. And on Instagram, we're at Beauty and the Surgeon podcast.
So when you went through to pick your favorites, did you listen or did you watch?
I did a little bit of both. So I listened to some and then I watched some. And so on my own personal Instagram, I post a lot of the funny clips or things that happen, like when I talked about hip thrusting a VW Beetle or when I was corn-fused. So I felt like, man, did I actually say anything on our podcast this year that wasn't just me sounding kind of like an idiot?
I thought the corn-fused was hilarious, by the way.
Yeah, so
you threw the entire state of Ohio under the bus.
Did.
And Tiffany from Ohio was probably pissed about that comment.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And all the people of Ohio. So one other thing, too, that was really cool this year was that we have listeners from out of the country as well. In fact, one of the questions from a listener that we answered, she doesn't live in the country, so I don't know where she lives, but she reminded me kindly that people who live outside of the United States do listen to our podcast, which was super awesome.
We got an international following.
We got at least one, yeah. So whoever you are.
One counts.
Yes. You are our international following.
We got
Thank
one.
you. Thank you for representing us.
We should actually send her one of our coffee mugs,
our
Beauty and the Surgeon.
Mugs. Yeah.
Of which you'll see Amy and I drinking them the whole time if you watch the YouTube channel. Okay, yeah. So we gave a shout out to Steve Shaw. He's awesome. Basically, one of our favorite guests.
Yeah, he was a great guest. So.
Oh, yeah. So this is number 5. We're counting down from they're all important to us, but number 1 is the most important, right? So this is, in terms of our ranking, this is number 5. So who's going first, Nils?
I'm going first.
Okay.
Yep. It's an alphabetical thing, I'm sure.
Okay.
Amy. Doctor.
Yeah, I'm struggling. I'm struggling with that.
Okay.
A little bit. Because
why can't age before beauty?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So without introduction, I'm just going to let the clip play. So this was my number 5. So here we go.
The one that first comes to my mind, and we know this patient, and she's awesome, but a patient who was in a car wreck and sitting in the back seat, I don't think she was seatbelted, but she could have been. And the driver lost control of the car. It swerved off the road, and a fence post actually went through the windshield, went through the front part of the car, and into the back part of the car, and basically dislodged half her face. Her entire half of the face is dislodged and thrown back behind her ear, down to her skull base. So that means skin, fat, bones, nerves.
Eye, the globe of the
her
eye.
Entire eye, everything.
Part of her nose.
And that alone is crazy. But then the phone call I got from the ER doctor, I've never experienced this. He couldn't even describe it.
Yeah.
And he was almost borderline emotional. And I was like sitting there in the middle of the night. I was like, what is going on? Am I dreaming this? Like, dude, just tell me what's going on. Like, why are we talking around this problem here? Usually they'll call, they'll say, 30-year-old male is bilateral orbital fractures, 30-year-old male, self-inflicted gunshot wound to the face with injuries to the mandible, nose, and frontal bone. I mean, they would just describe the injuries and, hey, tell us what you need us to do. Can you see this person? But he was at a loss of words. So I went in to see this patient, totally awake, with half their face gone, talking coherently and saying, basically like, I realize this is bad. Am I going to be okay? It was just, that was crazy.
So that was a clip from our podcast about trauma call.
Ooh, I got goosebumps.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that case, I mean, so stood out. I mean, it still does. I mean, of all the things that we've seen in 11 plus years of working together, that still will forever stand out in my mind.
That was probably the most devastating case
thing
we've ever had.
But with an awesome outcome.
Yeah, she looks amazing.
Yeah. I mean, like she really, it's an incredible story.
I was laughing a little bit, even though that story was gripping when I was talking. Me talking, of course, yeah. So I was laughing at the slide behind us, which was the man with the body parts attached in different areas. So I got to give a shout out to Sarah for that, which is hilarious. But yeah, that case was amazing. I totally forgot about that part of the episode.
Yeah. Oh, I thought that was a great one. I always love listening to you talk about surgery because it's what you do. And like you talk about it so well. And like, it's really interesting.
Can I say one thing? I actually, when I listen to the podcast, I like the parts where you talk and like you say things. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's so interesting what she's saying.
See, that's why it works.
So it's all through, it's the prism of your eyes.
Yes. All right. Well, so next is your number 5. I'm not sure. I've not ever done mindfulness training, but I thought this was a cool study.
I think mindfulness, this is excellent. I'm glad you brought this up. I just think it's such a sign of our times. I don't think like in the 50s they were talking about mindfulness. I mean, maybe, but
I doubt it.
I mean,
but
meditation, but mindfulness is just
different.
basically code word for you got to put down the phone. You got to get off the social media. You got to
check in with how you're feeling.
Check in with how you're feeling. Sit down with family and friends, connections, love connections. Friend connections. You got to be in the present.
Yeah.
Forest bathing.
You got to be in the present. Yeah, you're not forest bathing if you're on your phone.
No.
You are absolutely
not. You
not.
cannot forest bathe if you're not being somewhat mindful. And they showed with forest bathing, the blood pressure goes down, the diabetes is more well controlled just by walking through the forest. Mm-hmm. And that's a form of mindfulness, right? Because you're depugging, going out there in the present, looking around, feeling good about nature.
Mm-hmm. And it's something, I mean, to get like, I know you don't like it when I get all
here we go.
Weird, but very often, like if I'm having a conversation with a friend or something that's conflicted about what to do in life or whatever, like, have you taken a second just to like check in with yourself? Like, does this feel genuine and true to you?
I don't think I've ever said that to any one of my guy friends ever. Have you ever checked in with yourself?
Right, like take a step back, bro. Like check in with yourself.
No, don't say that.
How do you feel?
What are you doing? Nothing. What are you up to? Just hanging out.
Nothing.
Cool, man.
Like get deep inside. Like how are you feeling? Like inside.
No deep.
No, but that's.
You can teach me to be deep. We'll do the mindfulness. We'll walk through the forest. We'll be deep together.
So it's funny. I
picked it just for the part where you said you just got to check in with yourself.
Like yeah, bro.
Like hey, you. How are you doing?
How you doing, man? Yeah. So since this episode, have you done that with all your guy friends? Have you been like
absolutely checking in,
seeing how they're doing?
I will say the mindfulness part, you've really, really brought me from a terrible place to a functional place. I'm not good yet, but I'm doing better.
Hey, functional is a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
That was the episode of research we're into, right? Is it research we're into?
Yes, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. Yeah,
Research words,
it was. And that's actually a really, really good episode. I actually listened to that all the way through, and I was totally vibing off that episode because we presented a lot of good stuff
Yeah.
there.
And that was, I think, that mindfulness study was kind of toward the end of
Yep.
that episode, but it was a really fun one.
Yeah. You also presented something about coffee.
Caffeine.
Yeah.
Yep. Caffeine intake and lower death rates, like, right? Lower rates
Yeah.
of death.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And autophagy.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. It was really good. And
I actually really like some of the episodes we did, which are not just about plastic surgery, but really kind of off the beaten path. And that research one was one of my favorites.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of in the business of anti-aging.
Yeah.
So plastic surgery in many ways is just trying to turn back the hands of time.
We said that. I forget which episode. I said plastic surgery is surgery for aging,
Yeah.
basically.
I think that was on our longevity podcast.
Besides the congenital stuff we do for children. But
Yeah.
that's fine.
Those were good. Okay, so who do you think won that round?
It's
Since you're
hard.
keeping score.
Can we just say that was a push?
All right, that was a draw. Okay.
To be honest with you, I know I say that I win all the time, but you win all the time. So I'm just going to say that was a tie.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'll take a tie.
Okay.
Okay.
Number 4.
So my number 4.
Quattro.
Here we go. Pictures of
So
celebrity
Amy is now
siblings.
showing Brad Pitt and another guy who looks like an uglier Brad Pitt.
That is Brad Pitt's brother, Doug, who I'm sure everyone knows about.
I mean, not only is he not
Doug
as good looking
Pitt.
as Brad, his name is Doug.
Doug Pitt.
And we got some Dougs in our life. We love Dougs, but it's not like a fancy name. If you see people in Hollywood, they have big faces, and some of that,
Big head. Was that Entourage episode?
yeah,
Where Turtle's theory about all famous people
they do. It's
have
true.
big heads.
It's true. Like if you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger and
Big
all
head.
they're all short with huge heads. But definitely he just has a bigger face all the way around.
Yep. And like it's narrower,
Yeah.
a little bit longer. His shoulders are broader.
His
He's
shoulders
taller.
are broader. He's taller. He just has a more healthy look to him.
Yeah.
His eyebrows are in a better shape. His hair is not receding like his brother. And this poor Doug.
Right?
I would so hate to be.
Brad Pitt's brother.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I hate sitting next to you when we're in a consult. They're like, "You guys are so great looking." I'm like, "Yeah, you mean the Amy?"
Was that longevity? Was that?
No, that was What Makes a Face Beautiful.
Oh yeah. Yep.
July 1st.
Look at you. Yeah. What makes a face beautiful? So I was talking about birth order.
I really hope that Doug Pitt does not watch
Come after
or listen to this podcast because we threw that guy under the bus.
Not as bad as we did.
Penelope Cruz's sister?
No, Sean Connery's brother.
Oh, poor guy. Yeah.
Yeah, so we also, after the Brad Pitt, we showed pictures of Penelope Cruz and her sister, and then Sean Connery and his brother. And yeah, it just, my point to that was with beauty. You know, when you talk about beauty, somewhat of that is determined by your genetics, and your birth order kind of can play a role in that.
Yeah, big time. And you said something that, like, if you are the son born right after the daughter, that you may have more feminine traits if you're born closer to
Higher circulating estrogen.
Right.
Yep.
So I was 5 years from my sister, so I decided I'm more masculine.
Yeah, when I say close together, I mean like within 18 months. Of
Yeah,
the
and we made a
previous-
joke about the
yeah,
Irish Catholics, which I am Irish
right.
Catholic.
But
Yeah.
you guys are a long ways apart.
Yeah, 5 years. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that was a pretty good 4.
All right.
All right, so mine's next. I have no idea what it is, so this is too much suspense. All right. I struggle with this because isn't there a big part of aging with losing muscle mass?
Sarcopenia. It's huge.
So why would you want to treat one of the bigger factors that allows us to put muscle on and to age, like you're saying, functionally?
Yes, to have a functional aging.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's where the longevity thing, it's like nutrition. There's no one solution that's the one thing. Like you asked, like, why can't we just fix this? It's because it's not just one thing that's happening. And everything has a consequence in the body. It's like traditional Eastern medicine talks a lot about like making each breath count, because their theory is you only have a certain amount of breaths in your life.
Here you go. Okay, what is your problem? You started with the telomeres, right?
Yes.
When the telomeres are done, you're dead.
You're dead.
Then you moved on to the stem cells. So, you only have a certain amount of stem cells. You're dead.
You're gonna
man.
die.
And now we're talking about the breaths.
Hold your breath.
What's next?
Well, no, just about like putting that like quality in everything you do in your life. So if you're starving and losing muscle all the time, like, is that really quality? If you go all in on just block and mTOR because excess energy uses up excess, it'd be like thinking that's my point with this, is that thinking in Eastern medicine, like, okay, so what if you exercise, you're taking a lot of breaths, you're shortening your life. Now, is that true? No. Hold your breath.
Yeah.
Everybody, let's lengthen our life.
You're absolutely morbid. Everything that you bring up. So if the telomeres are gone, you're dead. If your stem cells, what you said, exhaust, you're dead, right? You only have so many breaths. I mean, every kind of thing that you bring up from a science standpoint is related to you just dying.
Ends in dying.
What's the movie where they know they're going to die, but they try to escape it? Those
Final Destination.
Final Destination. You're kind of like that.
Yeah.
You have that quality to you.
Well, we're all going to die.
Okay.
That was a good episode.
That was a good episode.
Yeah. That was longevity.
That was longevity. Yeah. So I want to say that longevity was my favorite episode.
It was probably mine also. There were many clips that I could have pulled from longevity.
And I do think that maybe that's because that's where our interests lie. But I do also think that it had so much good information related to where we are these days about health, and highly advise people if you want to know about where we are with longevity. This is just small parts of it. It's not the whole thing. It's actually really good to listen to, and it'll teach you a lot. So
yeah, that was a really good episode. That was a really, really good one.
All right. We're getting down here. Number 3, Amy.
Number 3.
So this is so exciting. We'll see what'd you say?
This is my number 3.
Oh, you're number 3. Okay. Of course it's a book. It's always a book. Do you ever do anything but read?
No.
Okay. Oh, all right. So we know this book, Open Wide. This is one of Amy's favorite authors. What's her name?
Melissa Ambrosini.
Yeah. We also follow her on Instagram. She's great.
Yes.
Now, she, I think, is more geared toward women, not men. I don't know if I would take away from Open Wide as you would, but maybe not.
I think you should absolutely read Open Wide. So
that would
I do
require
own this
me to read a
book, by the way. So this is a copy from the library, but I do own this book. I just own it in a digital format, which I was going to put my Kindle in there. I'm like, why don't I just get the book from the library? So I do own this book. I've read this book probably 4 times, cover to cover, and I go back to it frequently, reading just little chunks of it. The full title is A Radically Real Guide to Deep Love, Rocking Relationships, and Soulful Sex. And she does get a little over the top sometimes.
Yeah, the graphic sex part is what I was kind of alluding to, but it kind of makes sense in the way she approaches emotion, life, relationships, and love. And her overriding theme about love and approaching life with appreciation and love, I mean, I think is universal for everyone.
It is, and it's not just romantic relationships. I mean, this book in particular does have a focus on romantic relationships toward the end, but at the very, very end, it's mostly, more than anything, about how you view yourself and your relationship with yourself. So the chapters in the book, or the parts essentially, so the first part is Unleashing Your Divine God Essence. And it talks a lot about understanding like male and female energy, and you guys are all laughing at me.
There's a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, there is. Forward direction right
But to be honest with you, like that's not the way my brain works. And actually, when you listen to her or read something, it kind of makes sense. So I have to say, it's not something I'm into, but I could be into it.
Just, pick up this book and be open to it.
Don't steal it from the library like Amy does.
It's an awesome book.
She's terrible.
I don't steal books from the library. I return them. I value the library. All right.
We should just have a podcast. The name should be Amy Goes to the Library and Picks a Book.
Amy picks a book.
Because this is literally what you do every week.
It is. Pretty much half my conversation probably started with the book I'm reading right now.
Since everything's digital now, do you ever see anyone at the library? That's just the question besides kids.
No, there are a lot of people at the library.
So they still go and they want to touch books and stuff. Bibliophiles or whatever they call those people.
Yes, book lovers, yes. Yeah. So funny enough, like I frequently request books too from other libraries that are associated with our library system, and the request shelves are huge. I mean, so I'm not the only one. It's not like just my book sitting on a shelf that's empty. Like there are a lot of other people that are requesting books. So
I listened to that whole episode too, and
there's more stuff we're into.
Yeah, more stuff we're into. That was a great episot. My Weighted Blanket.
Yep.
Which
CBD.
We decided that I'm like a child, likes to be swaddled. CBD.
Resveratrol.
Yeah. What was yours?
Mine was open wide.
Yeah. Oh, you're hauling hooks, which was hilarious.
Yep,
I
for
just wanted
lifting.
to see someone go on our YouTube channel. They're like, oh, I want to get this. Here's about plastic surgery, and then you get these strange hooks that you use for powerlifting stuff.
Yeah, Holland hooks.
Yeah.
They were good. Yeah. So I cannot highly recommend Open Wide enough. Also, her other book, Mastering Your Mean Girl, is another just amazing book for men and women. Like they really.
We're getting it. Nils and I are opening up.
Right? You guys are opening
we hug
wide.
every time we see each other now.
Oh, nice. You
We're
bro it
opening
out.
wide.
Yeah. All right.
I love you, Nils.
So let's hear your number 3.
Number 3.
Here's one for the OGs.
Oh my gosh.
Sean Connery.
Who's the other guy? Is that?
That's his brother.
Are you kidding me?
I am not kidding you.
So she's now showing a picture of Sean Connery and his brother, who looks like. It's very interesting.
Right? Almost like a clown version of Sean Connery.
It's almost like you put Sean Connery in a Mad magazine. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And gave his like caricature
Unfold
person.
him,
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And again, I mean, we see kind of the same
I mean, he's a
things,
good-looking
like-
guy. I mean, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
he doesn't have that Sean Connery stuff. And it's
No.
not like Sean Connery's so attractive. There's something about that dude that makes you
Sean Connery is so attractive.
like he has that, and maybe it's the
Mm-hmm.
voice. And by the way, we didn't talk about that. Like I mentioned at the beginning, beauty is also in presentation.
Yes.
I've come in to the office, and someone walks through the door, and they have some flowing, colorful dress, and they exude personality, and you're like, I love this person. Like, this is great, right? Like some of that's there. Sean
Yes.
Connery has that, whatever
Oh, yeah,
that
he's
is.
got that. He's got swagger.
Swag, yeah.
Yep. So does Brad Pitt. I mean, I would not say that Doug Pitt has swagger.
I mean,
He's goofy.
I know what happened if Doug Pitt was like the coolest dude ever.
Oh, he
though,
might
you know?
be, but I mean,
Just because he's really funny and self-deprecating, and he's like, can you believe Brad Pitt's my brother? He'd be the best at a dinner party.
so
We should invite all the siblings, the ugly siblings, to our dinner party.
yeah, the preferential
Actually, we
birth
could-
order party.
Exactly. We can send them all like Beauty and the Surgeon swag.
Yeah, if any celebrity siblings want Beauty and the Surgeon,
They deserve it.
coffee cups, reach out to me because I will send
We
you.
got you, Doug Pitt.
Yep, we got Doug Pitt.
And Sean Connery's brother.
It's so funny though when you look at these things, like it just proves that like there is more to beauty than like just
Oh, yeah.
like the outward stuff. I mean, like some of the facial structure, the way your head is formed. I mean, some of those things you literally have no control over.
Personality.
Yes,
Yeah.
that make you better looking. Like the way Sean Connery's eyebrow arches. His brother's eyebrows are like an electrocuted cat.
I'm starting to feel bad.
Your eyebrows are on point. They
Okay,
look good.
okay, all
Yep,
right.
your eyebrows look good. So Nils had told me there was one that we were close on, so
Yeah.
that one. Yep.
I mean, how can you not? I mean, those were all your slides, so we'd have to give you props for all that. But how can you not pull those out as tops of the top?
They
you
were
know?
good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were really good ones.
All right, that's good. We could stop here, or we could keep on going.
I say we keep on going.
All right.
Yes. All right. So my number 2.
Who does number 2 work for? Yeah, exactly.
Who? You're my number 2.
You're my number 2. All right, so this is yours.
This is my number 2.
Let's see what this is.
All right. If this is a great graph, and this is directly from the study, it breaks down here.
So I have a first problem with this study.
Okay.
I love salt.
Well,
Does that mean that my breaths are going to stop, my telomeres are going to dissipate, and then I'm going to die from salt overdose?
no, and so many of these things, and this is what's really important in nutrition, is a lot of these things work synergistically and in relation with each other. So diet high in sodium is number 1 on the list, but what we are looking at specifically today is number 3, diet low in fruit.
Right.
Actually shows up higher than number 5, which is diet low in vegetables. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that over the last 27 years, since 1990, when this study began, the low carb craze really took off. Atkins, South Beach, people cutting out fruit entirely because they're afraid of sugar and they're afraid of carbs. So that's something that on the course of this study, I'd be interested to see this exact data from the 27 years prior and see if these were the same things that were affecting people back then.
Right.
So what we're faced with now, and these 2 are really high on the list. And I think one thing that I really loved about this study, and like I said, I'll go into this in more detail later, but it does talk about things like processed meats versus just intake of red meat versus intake of highly processed meat. And that's an important thing to break out. Also things like diet low in calcium. And that's so meaningful to me as a nutritional therapist because calcium is a cofactor of so many other things. So taking supplemental calcium doesn't really do a lot in the diet if you're not getting it with vitamin D and other things that actually make it usable.
So, some of these things like keto and stuff are goal oriented and that helps people. But I think that our goals are a little bit messed up right now as a society, especially in America.
Yeah, and if you look at the breakdown of this study is really interesting because it breaks down each individual kind of food group intake by country and then looks at what's kind of optimal overall, at least what they're extrapolating is optimal. And I don't agree with all of it, like anything else, you have to decide for yourself what's optimal for your body and your family, but there are cultures across the globe that sustain themselves on totally different food than what we have in our country. And even in looking back, more so to some of these countries 27 years ago had way less access to industrial foods than we have. And across the board, these things still come up as the theme, that increasing your intake of whole foods, fruits and vegetables, whole grains, decreasing sodium. Where is sodium going to be most prevalent? It's not in the Himalayan pink salt that you're putting on your food. It's in, potato chips. It's in packaged foods.
You're making fun of my salt.
No, I'm saying that your salt is fine. Your salt is fine.
No, thank you.
Your salt is good salt.
I got good salt.
You're the salt of the earth. So
my salt is good.
Your salt is good salt. What did I give you for your birthday this year?
Salt.
Right? And it was because of this episode. Yeah. And I wrote that on there, your salt is good salt. You're the salt of the earth.
I will say, I was looking, we were all watching that. And if you saw at the bottom of that graph was red meat. And that was a meta-analysis. Mm-hmm. And that really goes against what they were saying in that recent documentary on Netflix. It's been...
Right, because there's a huge difference between processed meat and grass-fed, organic, pastured meat, pastured animals. The difference is huge. And if you really look at that graph in detail, one of the things we didn't talk about on the podcast was the socioeconomic markers, but that's what those lines that go out from the middle of the graph are showing. And at the very bottom, like red meat, they're basically all the same, which just shows that that's not something that changes based on your socioeconomic status. Whole meat is whole meat is whole meat. If you're getting real meat, that's not a rich, poor thing. So on some of these, people who have perhaps a lower socioeconomic status might have more processed foods in their diet because that is what they have access to more readily and more easily. And you see that in some of those lines going out, do kind of correlate to a person's income in some ways, which is unfortunate. It really is. It is unfortunate. One of the things that I did this year was I was a guest on several other podcasts, and one of them was I was a guest on Steve Shaw.
You're kind of saying you're famous.
Super Living podcast. Oh yeah, everyone knows me. But what we talk about, I went on a rant perhaps about how we treat our food in this country. And it's not just our country, it's a global problem, but that includes meat and that includes fruit and vegetables. It includes everything. The way we farm is really not great. The foods that we're putting into processed foods, there's a lot wrong with the industrialized foods that people are eating.
And before everyone gets angry, we support veganism. It's whatever your choice. But that episode, Amy really talked about fruits and vegetables. Mm-hmm. She said that you got to focus on getting, let me remember, 7 servings a day. Mm-hmm. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah, and that reduces your risk of dying by all causes. So
she says I don't listen to her. I listen to everything she says. It's all stuck in my stupid brain. And I spit it out when someone says something about nutrition. I'm 7 servings of vegetables and fruit a day.
Reduces risk of mortality of all causes.
I don't know where that came from.
So that was also in our longevity episode, which we both clearly really enjoyed. So check that one out.
That was basically my favorite episode. All right, is this my number 2?
This is your number 2. Are you ready?
Number 2.
Here it goes. And do squats, ladies. Squats.
Toning.
Yep.
Don't be afraid of putting a little muscle mass on.
Put some weight on that bar.
It's not gonna hurt you. Mm-hmm. Amy, which we have established before, she does hip thrusting. She does 800 pounds. Mm-hmm. She enters hip thrusting competitions. Yeah. Locally.
I have an old Volkswagen Beetle that I used to train
with. You hip
with.
thrust your Beetle?
Yep. Slide underneath there. If you need your tire changed, you don't need a jack. I'll just come hip thrust it up for you.
So I have to say, I'm doing hip thrusting now. It's not going to kill you. It makes me uncomfortable. Every time I do it in the gym, I feel like a weakling. I'm only doing 135 pounds.
No direct eye contact while hip thrusting. No.
Nope. All right, number one, just the idea of you hip thrusting a beetle just made me laugh for like 10 minutes. The second thing is, as you can see from every one of these clips, I always look over at Nils and start laughing. Just like I'm doing right now. Because I'm like, is he think this is funny like I think this is funny?
Yeah, that was.
You are like a beast when it comes to hip thrusting.
I do hip thrust a lot.
Yeah.
Like today, I'm kind of doing easy sets right now, but I was still hip thrusting like 270, 280 this morning at the gym.
When I was picking out this clip, I was trying to think of things we could have you hip thrust that were possible, but a little bit outlandish, you know? And I don't know. I mean, it was hard to come up with things, but it would definitely have to be like, you know, something you could slide underneath. And then if you lifted your pelvis, that you could lift it off the ground.
Oh, like a car.
Like a Volkswagen Beetle.
Like a Volkswagen Beetle. That's why it worked.
An older one, not a newer one.
Right, not one of the new ones.
Yeah.
No, the old ones. I mean, what do those things weigh? Like 500-600 pounds. They weren't that heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, they were basically just a metal shell.
So I picked one that you actually mentioned, and you didn't know that.
Nope.
So there we go.
Yeah.
Simpatico.
So I mean, yeah. Oh man, we're down to number one, and our number ones
so
are the
nervous.
same.
So nervous. Oh, they were the same, pretty much. Okay.
Well, he made them the same because we had both picked this particular clip. So this clip became the overriding number one clip of 2019.
Right.
So
We should have next year. We should crowdsource it, meaning that we should have us pick, and then the listeners and the watchers pick.
the listener favorites.
Yeah.
Well, so I did actually, because I spent a couple of weeks trying to put together my clips because there were so many, and I would mention it to patients. I'd post some on Instagram, and one of our patients came in and she said, you should pick the clips where you're just like talking to each other because those are always the best parts of the podcast.
Yeah.
So
basically, our podcast, we shouldn't have a topic. It's just you and I talking for 30 minutes.
that's right.
Okay.
Next 2020. It's just, we have grab bag of topics, like pick one out of a hat.
Oh, yeah. I would totally do that.
We had the mailbag episode. It was kind of like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, for 2020, to all of you listeners who've made it this far to the podcast and are dying to hear our number one, tell us what you want to hear in 2020.
But like a year from now.
No, I mean just all of 2020.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Oh, red flag what you like at that time. Send that to us. We'll put that into our vaults. Pull
the
those
best of.
out at the end of the year. I like that.
For the best of.
Yeah, that's really good, Amy.
all right, so you ready for number one?
Yes, I think I'm ready.
Okay. Here comes number one. When you consume this turmeric root in its raw form, uncooked raw, you're getting more of the bioavailable substances in it. So there's not necessarily one-to-one comparison.
You telling me I have
They're
to eat
both
this
good.
petrified, disgusting looking thing like this?
I'm gonna make you drink some of the turmeric or some of that.
How much money would you
turmeric
give me
lemonade.
just to eat this?
Oh, I wouldn't give you
What's it
any
taste
because
like?
it's delicious. It's kind of spicy. I mean, it doesn't really taste like much. It doesn't taste like much. It's clean.
I would taste like dirt.
Okay. Yeah. See.
That's just terrible.
Oh, smell it.
No. Why would you put that in lemonade?
It's delicious.
That's vulgar.
It's so good. It does stain everything yellow.
It's okay. I got my Beauty and the Surgeon coffee mug. I can wash it down.
Right.
Let's go.
So just, I mean, if you're using the raw form, like even the pills, like you will stain everything yellow, and your fingers, your house, like everything you touch will be yellow. So you won't.
Yeah, all
Like, your tongue probably is.
Well, so I just got a lot of bioavailable turmeric.
Yes. So, yeah.
I think it's funny that the things you're into you pick is that was from things you're
That
into,
was from
right?
stuff we're into.
You picked turmeric. Mm-hmm. Like you picked a root.
Yep. Oh, because
This is like, I mean,
well, you picked resveratrol. That's an herb.
yeah, but it's gonna make me live forever.
So turmeric will too. It kills cancer cells in petri dishes.
That was very funny, especially. I don't know why I actually did eat that. That was very impulsive of me. So in turmeric, the active ingredient is
Curcumin.
And you talked about in that episode that if you just eat turmeric, that you won't really get the level of curcumin that you need for its beneficial effects.
Correct. And that most of the studies that study turmeric are really studying curcumin, like curcumin extract.
At much higher doses.
Much higher doses. And, is there promise in those things? Absolutely. These tests are done on, in labs and on lab animals sometimes and in like cultured dishes to see the effects. But it's definitely something that really doesn't have any downside to it. So adding a really bioavailable form of turmeric and curcumin into your diet is highly, highly advisable.
And if you remember from the episode, she added it to lemonade.
That I left in the fridge. So you didn't get to drink it. I think that's maybe. I was sad that you didn't get to drink
Isn't
it.
lemonade okay by itself? Do you have to add dirt root to it?
Dirt root. It makes it this beautiful orange color.
Oh,
it's
I'm
so
sure it's
tasty
beautiful.
and
Yeah.
spicy. And
You drink that at the library with all the other crazy people.
yes, I do.
There getting books.
Right. That's exactly what happens.
Yeah. I think you're just born in the wrong century. You should have been born like the early 1900s. You're reading books. You're eating, dirt roots
I'm
and
steeping,
lemonade.
Yeah, steeping turmeric into tea and lemonade. Yes.
I thought this was a great year.
So did I.
2019 was awesome. Really, really enjoyed doing the podcast. You feel the same?
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's just fun to talk about stuff that we are into, and that's plastic surgery, it's reconstructive surgery, it's
Health.
Research, it's health. Yeah.
Fitness.
Those are the things we're into.
Yeah. Roots. I think
Longevity.
we should definitely thank Nils. Nils is our producer, and no one's ever seen Nils before. He's so amazing looking, very strong and intelligent.
Norwegian.
Yeah.
He's basically like 8 feet tall. He's a Viking.
I can't even look over to my right. It's blinding. So Nils makes all this happen, and we really appreciate Nils. Nils' wife is named Sarah. She's the one who makes all of our slides, and it's a family affair. So we really, really appreciate both of them for everything they do for us in this podcast. I think Amy and I want her to chime in here, really want you guys to know that we do this purely for education purposes and to give you good information so people can make their lives better. That's why we do plastic surgery. Hopefully you enjoy our antics. Most of it's me reacting to Amy, not her reacting to me.
And me saying stupid stuff.
Me laughing and looking at Nils like a kid. Anyways, but we want you guys to know we love the fact that we have listeners. Nils just told us that we've had an unbelievable amount of downloads up to this point. This podcast is growing. It's becoming more and more prevalent. And that's good because we're really getting good information out that we believe in, honest information that's based on data and our experiences. So,
Yeah. We podcast because we like it.
yeah. In 2020, Amy, what's your plan?
Well, so we actually did talk about this in our goal setting podcast. We said we were going to talk about our goals for 2020.
Yeah, I had not prepared. I had to listen to our entire year of podcasts in 48 hours. Unlike you did it 3 weeks beforehand. I had to cram it all in like I was preparing for a med school test. So what do you think?
So I listened back to our goals podcast and listened to what we kind of talked about on that podcast. And my goal was very nondescript at that moment. But, one of the things I actually would like to do in 2020 that's a concrete, achievable, or workable goal is I would like to buy a house in 2020, provided the economy goes the way it should for me to be able to buy a house.
So you want everybody to lose their money so you can buy the house at a
Pretty
cheaper
much.
amount.
I would like it to be 2007
So
again.
this for the fact that in the goals episode you said you wanted to be a better person.
Sort of.
Now you're wishing economic pain on America.
Pain.
And what was mine? I wanted to be more...
You didn't have one either.
Yeah. I actually think, watching these clips, I want to focus more, and I've been thinking a lot about this, on being present and quality of time. I have an active mind. I'm sure you didn't know that, Amy.
No, 11 years working together has not shown me that.
So sometimes I'm always on to the next thing. I'm working through things in my mind, and I personally want to focus on the now. I have kids that I love very much. They're getting older. I have a wife I love very much. I have an office manager that's my best friend, and I want to focus on those things that are important to me in those times together. So I think that for 2020, you can wish economic collapse for America.
Just for,
And I wish
someone.
better relationships. One thing you did say, just a side point, this has nothing to do with buying a house. You did say you wanted to open up more because
Yes.
2019 was a little bit heavy.
2019 was
Yeah.
it's not a good year.
Yeah, it's difficult. So
Yeah.
here's to 2020.
Doesn't look like it's having a better ending either. So.
At least we got some good clips to show about
That's
that.
right. I
Yeah.
mean, I did say a lot of stupid stuff on in perpetuity.
I mean, if forever, as long as you do a podcast with me, I'm going to say more stupid things than you are. So don't worry about it. All right. So I think that's it. Don't you
That's
think?
it. Thank you all so much for listening. We really do appreciate the feedback, and the feedback we got from you in 2019 was amazing. We'd like more of it. Please leave us a comment, a rating, review. You can find us on YouTube at Jason Martin MD. We're at Beauty and the Surgeon Podcast on Instagram, and also at Jason Martin MD on Instagram. So rank us, rate us, share us with your friends. We really appreciate you.
And 2020 will be better than 2019. We have a lot of stuff already planned, so we're very excited about this upcoming year.
Cheers.
Oh, cheers.